I don't know what that was.
Was that accent? Like that was trying to imitate my
accent?
accent?
That was an accident. That wasn't an accent. That was an accident. Whatever
Not
you're saying.
nearly as good as Gio's. Welcome back to Designing with Intent. I'm Charles. He's Alex. Your middle name is Charles, isn't it?
Max.
Is what?
Max.
Max. Where did you get
Charles, yeah,
from?
very close. Charles Max.
Leverage.
I don't know. Gio, what's your middle name?
Emilio.
All right. What's your given name? Emilio Estevez Clinaz.
Giorgio Emilio de la Concepción Palacio Hernández. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh, he's being real.
That would have been so cool if that's really your name.
Well, it's my shortened name. Okay.
And you're Chris what Schlemer?
Well, I'm actually Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Good actor. I like
Yeah, because I'm obviously old. I was born in the 1900s, so obviously back then names were different.
Yeah. We have different names these days.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking, what are we talking about today? Attention Star, that's right. We've got Attention Star and Optimum Idol. Both new releases from Roto Grip. Both have AI. Which one came first with AI, the Optimum or the...
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. I think that, which came first? I think that's going to be the Attention Star actually is launching first. Optimum Idol is actually hitting the streets March.
Okay, so Attention Star first Roto Grip ball with AI.
Correct. Yeah,
And
not
it's
only
ASIM.
Yeah, not only is it the first one with AI, but it's also the first one with it's the first asymmetric we've actually produced too, besides the global ball. So yeah, it's kind of just a new introduction and kind of a new thing, and yeah, just trying to add and enhance the product line is really the big thing.
So if you're building on the product line, what does this pearl do differently than the exotic gem? Because that's a pearl.
Night and day different. In the fact of, I think the big thing, my thing is always about building puzzle pieces and building reactions. And when you look at our full product line, looking for an ASIM that was cleaner, so the sole focus going in from kind of how it all really, how the snowball started rolling, was creating an ASIM ball with a clean cover that got through the front part of the lane and then had to change direction. That's where the starting point was. So then it's like, okay, how do we build that? Okay. That's really kind of how it, obviously it was a culmination of Alex and Hank and myself, and I think you were probably in on that meeting, and, we were trying to figure things out, and I was like, man, we need this reaction, but how do we get there? Now we've decided that, what's the next step? So that was the big thing.
So we have, you said, cleaner cover.
Yep.
We have a couple major classifications of cover stocks. Urethane, clean and not clean. Nano-based, not nano-based. Is this nano-based or not nano-based?
There is no additives in it. This is E-Trax Plus, so it is as we like to refer to on the Roto Grip side, when you look at the evolution of E-Trax, the very first one, it's our pure clean reactive, and then as we've morphed and it's graduated into different, as I like to say, variants off of that, we're now to E-Trax Plus, which is a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more responsive than the original E-Trax, but there's no nano additives in it, so it's not as early, not as grippy as what you see in the Gem series, like the Gem nameplate, from Gem, Exotic Gem to Magic Gem, all of those have nano. So those are all going to see a different part of the lane. And so that was, like I said, the whole deal of getting farther down the lane and then, making something new and fresh and cool. Mm-hmm.
So new, fresh, cool. You work with that guy a lot with the coolness factor.
Oh yeah.
So with the colors, where did the inspiration come from? Were there any other balls that you had a color?
Absolutely, actually.
Throw back to?
What's funny is I brought this up in the when I did the Morning Bolt, whenever ago it was, and one of the balls that kept coming up over time was the Hectic, and so it's actually that kind of berry fuchsia, that silver, and then we just kind of added, this, as I called it, iron, a darker color to it. And that's really been the big thing, and now that people have seen it in the wild, or in the wilderness, as I like to say. The tour guys have had it for a while now, but now consumers are seeing it. They're getting them, they're buying them. And the big thing at every color is like, wow, that ball's pretty. Wow, that ball's cool looking. Wow, that ball's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, and Roto Grip isn't always wild and crazy. I just, it's kind of just a thing to make it more of an identifier. But this one was, it was just something different. It's just something like, we'll make this look just a little different vibe and feel kind of thing. And I think it worked actually so far. So it seems like so.
Gio, when you see we make these different samples and the different materials,
Oh, he says everything's pretty. He don't care. Come on.
he makes everything pretty.
I know. He's like, oh, this is pretty. Oh, that's pretty. What do you think of that one? Oh, that's pretty too. Dude.
I know.
When he says it like that, it's because when I bring him samples, I bring him 3 or 4 at a time. So
Facts. Not gonna lie. Facts.
so it's like, okay, Schlem, these are all the samples.
And then he always
I
says
always
his,
give, hey, I like this one and that one.
he's
Always-
like, that one? Not so much.
That one I'm not sure about. And he makes the final decision. But yeah, I do give him my 2
and,
cents.
and I'm open to, I mean, all you guys, I mean, whether it's you or Joe or whoever, I mean, there's plenty of times, you know, obviously I don't let anybody else kind of, I'm like, you guys see, like you said, the color samples. Sometimes, and you're in on that too, sometimes it's like, oh, 2 color samples, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get this in 2. Sometimes it's going to be 4, 6. Sometimes it seems like 10 color samples.
Can we take a little of this?
Yeah.
A little
Yeah,
of this?
what if we mix
Make
this
that?
blue and that one?
Yeah,
And
you know, and I think that's the big thing. But yeah, that's cool with Gio and with him. He always has throws his 2 cents in of, because if I was picking, this one might be.
If you want my opinion, then
This one might
I'm
be a
going
little.
to give it to you.
This is a little. I don't know what that was.
Was that accent? Like, that was trying to imitate my
hold on,
accent?
that was an accident. That wasn't an accident. That was an accident. Whatever.
Not
you're saying.
nearly as good as Gio's.
Yeah, but no, I mean, and I appreciate that because again, we've got. I mean, as you do a lot of the OEM stuff as well. I mean, we're 100+ balls a year coming out of this building, trying to find colors that we haven't used or. That's really the big thing too. When you look at our brands, it's really kind of create that separation of, hey, like something stands out. People go, and that's the big thing that's always kind of been too with colors. Because I remember from my pro shop days 100 years ago, people come in, they're like, I need that new ball. Okay, which one? That new one. Well, that narrows it down to the 12 that came out last month. And then you'd have to ask, was it, whichever brand? 9 times out of 10, the consumers can't tell you that. So I've always used color as a strategy of people come in and they go, I want that bright yellow, purple, pink thing. You're like, oh, that's a gem. Or no, this maybe it had black in it. Oh, magic gem. It's easier for the pro
Stands
shop.
out,
It's easier. It's an identifier.
Idol Helios, that thing was bright.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
And getting to the next one. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about Optimum Idol. One color, she bright.
Yeah.
People are already calling it. I heard the hot mics from the PBA tour. The guys were like, "Oh, she the bright purple ball."
That purple drink. Gio, in your time working with Schlem, what's been the ball that's taken the longest to nail down from a color perspective? What's been the most challenging for you to develop for Schlem when he wants to create something new?
I don't remember the name of it, but I remember we had 5 color samples for that ball. I don't remember which one was. We brought the first batch, 3 different colors, and it was kind of the idea that Alex said.
Alex has got something.
I'm pretty sure it was a hustle. There was one hustle color sample that we were like, oh, there's another email from Schlemer. Must be 3 more color samples.
Yeah,
You're
and
just trying to get there, trying to make it pop, trying to make it stand out.
the funny thing is that you look at the ball after we pour it, it's like, actually looks like a Roto Grip ball. It has no logos and nothing. And you're just like, yeah.
Isn't that funny
That's
how
a
we
Roto
can
ball.
tell that it's kind of like, okay, this is like a Roto Grip ball, and this
Yeah.
should be a Storm ball, and this one over here should be a Global.
Yeah, that sometimes we do color samples and we actually, let's say, of any storm ball, it's like, that looks more like a Roto ball. So
Yeah.
let's keep it for.
We
if
play
there's
Well,
lenses.
And so I'm going to interject because I'm the old guy here of the party, going back, and it predates you guys. As I was getting into that aspect of it, and it's like come up with color, and you experienced a little bit, but man, I come up with some color samples, and it used to never fail. God rest his soul. Bill would walk by, or even Dave when he was here, and be like, "That's a pretty looking ball. That's a storm ball."
That's a storm.
They literally take it up off my desk, the color sample, and it literally would go to Steve, or I'm like, "But no, that's a storm ball."
And it was pretty.
And it was pretty. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Definitely good times.
So I definitely will live through that section of my life where it's like, oh, that's too pretty. That's not a Roto Grip ball. That's a storm ball.
And
I'm like,
nowadays, the OEMs you guys make them too pretty. Okay, I hear that.
oh, it's
heard
his
that
fault.
all the time
It's
from
his
Dave
fault. Yeah.
and Bill. This is too pretty to be a international
Overseas ball.
Yeah,
Part of
overseas
your
ball.
fault, Chad.
Well, I mean, it is pretty cool that we get to work with that stuff, but bring it over here, like with the Momentus core. So that was originally an OEM.
Correct.
Did you say in that video the other day that you adjusted that CAD? It's a little bit of an adjustment from the OEM version?
Yep. Yeah, we made some draft angle changes and stuff, basically to get it to go along with AI a little bit. And I think one of the misconceptions that a lot of people are kind of drawing on AI is that just because we can change those densities more doesn't mean that all these balls are going to hook as soon as they touch the lane. Right. And that's kind of getting back at what Schlem said there by throwing a little bit cleaner cover on the ball. And then if you look at the actual design of that Momentus AV, you've got kind of that longer elliptical shape. It's very uneven from top to bottom, so you get a lot more torque effect with that clean cover. The ball gets a lot further down the lane, but now that you still have that lower RG and a little bit higher diff, the ball still kicks, doesn't miss the spot.
And that was part of the deal of, when we got to talking about it, how we ended up on this, like I said, we wanted a ball that was cleaner and more change direction. Obviously getting in the cleaner cover. Getting the AV actually stands for altered variant, because the original Momentus core, which we used overseas for a few years, technically it's not the same version of it. So that's why I threw the AV on the back of it, because he did change some of the angles and, a little bit of modification, a little bit of the density and that kind of thing. So it's an altered version, altered version, altered variant is what I call it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all, and like I said, I think it all came together. Reaction-wise, everybody, even as soon as the tour guys got it, my phone started going off, and they're like, "Man, where's this ball been all my life?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, and even you guys know
Simo Steve challenge, which I don't think has aired yet. So a little tease
challenge, and when Simo was throwing it, and he's like, "Man, I'm not usually a big fan of our ASM pearls. My man's using it. He's used it every week now since he's had it available. So,
seems to be working.
He's like, oh, this one fits. And then even the other guys are like, it just sees a different part of the lane, down lane, and it's a different change of direction.
I think that's a good blend between the cover, like you said, a little bit cleaner cover. If you get too far both directions, weight blocking cover, you get that kind of sensitive where, maybe it sees it if there's a lot of friction down lane, but if there's more kind of carry down or if urethane's gone down the lane, it just kind of misses the spot down there. So if you get that good blend of core and cover, which I think we did pretty good with this Attention Star, you get just a very consistent but still cleaner reaction to create more entry.
And I think it goes the other way too, because you mentioned exotic gem, but if say we would have pearlized it and used that same material, the Microtrax pearl, it would have brought the spot closer to you. And then when you take a core like that, and even though, like Alex said, it's a little bit more elongated, and you got that slug on bottom, as opposed to the Defiant LRG part, that more center heavy egg, one density.
Yep.
You force it to read faster, and that was kind of the thing Simon was telling me. And again, for those of you at home, I think it's one of those things that's kind of been common for a long time, but I think there's a misconception people maybe don't understand. Sometimes pearl balls, you feel like you can't get them down the lane, and that's because the pearlized material sees friction faster. It responds to friction faster. And if you got a lane surface that has more friction in the front, it's going to feel like, man, this ball isn't really doing anything. Well, that's because the covers, even though it's not technically a super grippy or big cover, it's seeing the friction up front. And I know I battled that when I'm back in 100 years ago in my tour rep days, because there were certain guys that they saw the ball a certain way and they're like, man, this ball just doesn't do anything. And I'm like, man, but it gets to the spot and it shapes. And I'm like, well, move 3 left and get it like 2 right. And then they, get enough of the oil and they'd shoot and it'd bounce. They're like, oh, yeah, but when I trap it this way, it starts that much faster and it's kind of lazy. So yeah, it's that balance of core and cover. I think that's the fun. I can't call it really a game, but I think that's the fun aspect of some of the stuff that obviously we're testing. And I know there's a lot of times where we're walking over and headbutting this brick wall, because we're like, oh, this is supposed to work, and they're just like, yep, nope. And so you get that right kind of marriage, I guess, if you will.
I think that's one, I've said this in a couple of our videos here, that people don't appreciate enough, is that it's not as easy as it seems to just throw, this and this. Yeah, it makes sense. There's a lot of things that don't really make sense that work pretty good here.
Things make sense, but sometimes just don't work.
Yep. Right.
Papers sound good, but reality and real world application, probably not so much.
Yeah, and so, kind of circle back and just, touch upon Attention Star again. You look at the balls we have in the line, from the Gem series with that super low RG, they rev, and as we like to refer to, they kind of lock up or they spin up a lot faster. And then the other end of it was actually the clone, bringing back that ET part, something that actually tumbled a little bit higher RG. And now it's like we take that attention star part, the Momentus core, Momentus AV, and it kind of fits in between those. And it's a different cover than the other 4 balls. So again, it's building the puzzle pieces to, help the ball see a different part of the lane. That's always a big thing.
So fitting the pieces together, the one that is along with the attention star is the Optimum Idol, and it goes the other direction.
It goes the other direction, right?
In a symmetric sense,
right? That was paying homage to the OG. I mean, it was one of those deals. It was not saying that it was the main reason, but it was the main reason. With the PBA rule change, obviously the OG idols and the balls past a certain date are not allowed on tour. We got
so your man Simo was buying them off the interweb.
All the interwebs, and then you take a guy like Chris Prather, who also had a couple paydays of $100,000. I mean, we got guys that were like, man, I've made a lot of money with these balls, and now I can't use them. And so that reaction was unique and different. And so, when we started talking about this in the development process of, you're not just going to reintroduce the same ball. And it's like, well, hey, and again, Alex working his magic with, he's got all the software is like, oh, this has to go in here, and this has to do this, and this is how it fits. Okay, you say so. I'm long removed from those days of playing with CAD and all that stuff. That was a yesteryear life. But anyway, we got to talk about it, and it's like, hey, this will fit in AI, and we can do this, and and so that's ultimately why it turned into, man, we got to get Simo in here to throw it, and he's going to be the tell-all. And I said, hey, dude, I need you to come throw this ball, and he's like, okay, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Well, he was throwing the Waze for the Waze video while he was here. I was like, so, you like that ball? He goes, yeah, man, I like it a lot.
That's the nice thing about Simo. He'll let you know if he likes
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that was kind of the deal with the Attention Star, because he's like, man, I'm not usually a fan of these. But anyway, as we talked about in that video with the Optimum, he goes, as a connoisseur, because my guy didn't finish lower than 10th last year. He threw Idol every week on tour for the full season of 23, and his lowest finish was 10th, and he drilled 6 fresh ones last year, because, he'd been collecting them off the internet. He's like, man, he goes, I just need to make sure I got this reaction.
Yeah.
And I said, man, obviously times changed, because when that came out years ago, to the way materials and stuff are now, and, Alex and these guys it's always a constant. And I think that's the big thing, too, and this is just kind of common knowledge, especially as we got through COVID, that was the biggest debacle with all the companies that were, materials and additives and stuff. And it's like, well, these guys don't have it. These guys shut down. These guys don't exist anymore. I can get you something kind of close. And then it turned into the chemistry aspect of our supplier, and then Alex, and more testing. And
we got to be flexible.
We had to be flexible. And so that's where, even though that was, the old one was, I'm trying to think. It was like, I want to call it was Microtrax. Oh, it was like S18, I think it was, in 2018, the solid version.
It's very impressive that you remember all that, honestly.
And this material now is, we call it Microtrax Solid, which is our modern rendition of it. And even like Simo said, he goes, oh man, it's just a touch. And now because he got to throw it here, and now he's throwing it on tour, gotten some feedback from the other guys, and, of course, in our tour reps and stuff like that, and they're like, dude, this ball's, Timmy Mack was like, oh, this ball's daddy. And some of the other guys were like, it's like the new and improved version of the Idol. And I go, well, that's what we were gunning for. That was the sole purpose. So
across all the weights, the 14 went down quite a bit in RG and up in diff. So that should be good for the 14.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I think that and Alex can touch on more on this than I can. But I think that's the other cool thing of predominantly, it doesn't matter the brand. 14 pounds tendency, the RG naturally goes up, because of the densities and get the shape. And I've had to explain this countless times in all my years of drilling balls. I've been drilling balls 30-something years. But with this AI technology, it's kind of cool in the fact of it's able to knock those points down. So now we're seeing some variation in 14 pounds, which ultimately just makes the 14-pound people who throw those, which there's more and more, it's going to create more options for them, I think, personally. But you can probably touch more and more than I can.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the lighter we get in the weight of the bowling ball, we can't change the size very much, right? There's a very strict size for the bowling ball. So as the weight goes down, we know RG is basically how heavy centered something is. So as the weight of the bowling ball drops, what's on the inside of the bowling ball also has to drop. So as soon as that drops, now the RG starts going up quite a bit. But we can control where each of those densities are using AI, so we can actually put some of those heavier densities closer to the center and a little bit more of the lighter densities closer to the shell, which, like you said, lets that RG drop a little bit. And that ultimately does help a lot of those 14-pound people that throw 14, because you kind of start being able to get down into those 249s and up into the 255s. There's some variety there that's going to, create different amounts of.
I was going to say, for the longest time, we were kind of, I can't say pigeonholed, but it was kind of just what it was. It was like 253 to 255. And that didn't matter what shape, slugs, no slugs, powerballs, whatever. But now with AI, like you said, I mean, we got some of the 14s. I mean, we can click down into those 2.4. Now that gamut, I mean, so it kind of creates a whole new world for those type of, people that are throwing 14 pounds. So that's kind of a cool thing too with AI.
So all the balls it's just an amped up version of a Idol, the OG
absolutely.
Idol. Is there anything you guys would recommend surface-wise or layout-wise differently from the first one? Would you let it lane shine up more? Would you just change the surface? I don't know.
I personally love when my Idol was lane shine. I like it much better than coming out of surface. I throw a little slower. So if the ball gives me a little length in the mid lane and doesn't slow down as much, better for my game. So I love it when it's lane shine, personally.
Yeah, and I know Alex had.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially when you get on harder patterns where the ratios are a little lower, maybe they're a little bit, you kind of need that more gradual slowdown as the ball changes direction. I've seen a lot of people bowl really good with Idols that are at a little bit higher surface, or even letting them lane shine a little bit, just because you kind of have the best of both worlds there. You still have that solid cover, that really quick spinning weight block in there, but now you kind of smooth it out. You get it through the front of the lane a little bit cleaner, but it's not so responsive like a pearl ball or something with polish on it would be. So it gives you a little bit of the best of both worlds.
He's probably talking about me.
And I think the other part too is, even though it's got the stronger cover on it, when you get into, you get to that micro tracks, which is actually, we're getting into the same kind of material that's actually on the original gem. And, we've already seen it quite a bit through the first handful of tour stops that the guys are been throwing gems quite a bit, and then now it's creating a different spot of, even though it's as I would refer to as a beefier or grippier cover, because of the core shape, and even though the RG is, what we can define as a little bit lower, it doesn't necessarily hook at your toe. I think that's the big thing, because it's not, it's not center heavy, it's not really revving up super fast, and so like you're saying, when you get a little lane shine on it, you're still getting it easily through the front, but it's really seeing the mid lane, and I think that's the big thing, especially for better bowlers, the different parts of the mid lane, and again, I know not everybody falls in that category. I sure as hell don't anymore. I hardly even bowl at all, actually. But, it's getting to know where your ball has to pick up and making it pick up at different parts of the lane. I think that's a big thing.
Sounds like a pretty good benchmark style ball. So if it's a good benchmark for different styles, Schlemm, build me a quick 3-ball arsenal around the Optimum Idol.
Around the Optimum Idol? Okay, so if we put that one, the basic logic says you start with Optimum Idol as your benchmark. You go bigger ball, cleaner. I put a tension star above it. And if you want a step down below it, actually you go to probably like a hustle rip, something like that, just to have the cover the gamut in like a 3-ball bag. Now, if you're a little bit better player and you're trying to, and that's the other part too, when you're talking about how we build a product line, ultimately, I can look at you could actually look at the HP3 line, you could build an arsenal from that, because you've got the Optimum Idol. If you need even smoother and control, you actually go Tour Dynamics. And if you need cleaner and pop, you'd actually go TNT Infused. So you've got 3 balls in that product line. And that's kind of been my thing since, once I got in the Roto Grip deal, was when you look at a product line, it's easy to go top to bottom, but sometimes you and I've actually had to explain this to some bowlers. Actually, one guy helped at the military back in January. He's like, man, he's got a real high track, and he's like, yeah, I don't like certain, I'm not really a fan of asymmetric balls. I'm like, okay, so we stick to symmetrics. So then explaining the different Roto Grip balls and storm balls and stuff like that. And the same thing holds true. Doesn't matter the how good or how bad of a bowler you are. Sometimes there's just certain balls that kind of match your game better. And so it gets into being able to go, you know what? Hey, I kind of like these hustles. These hustles do where you bowl at in your home bowling center with whatever lane surface it is, the lane machine and oil and all the other variables we have into it. You can build a 3-ball arsenal with a set of hustles. So, and now, obviously when you look at our HP4 line, we got 5 different options. I mean, you can build an arsenal. You can stay in the same line, or you can go up and down. So that's really kind of the matrix, if you will, of the Roto Grip product line.
Great.
So.
All right. Well, hope you enjoyed this episode of Designing with Intent. Keep watching. If you like it, we'll do more. So let us know in the comments. You heard everything that you could possibly want to know from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, it's because of the hair. That's why I get it. The horse's tail. Yeah.
Sweet. Grab him by the mane. All right. Thank you for that, Schlemer. We will be back next time with another episode and another ball and probably another hot special guest. So thank you, Schlemer, for coming in, hanging out. Gio, Alex, thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you. Pull up a storm, Storm Nation. I guess if you're a bowler and you want to bowl up the worst, you could kind of do that. That'd be kind of cool. Thanks, guys.
Get some strikes.